There's a tremendous sense of relief that 20 of the hostages who were presumed to be alive have indeed been shown to be alive and have indeed been returned, and to Zion have been returned, and to their country and to their families and to their land, having been stolen from it on October the 7th. Remember, the deal was supposed to ensure that all 28 were returned in one go. That will not be the case, so that's the first breach of the terms by Hamas. Of course, we have to be ready for the very high likelihood that there will be further breaches. I think it's very clear that there stands before us an opportunity to broaden the circle of peace and a keenness on behalf of Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump to move very directly toward that expansion. This is a terrorist, jihadist, genocidal organization that is absolutely hell-bent on killing Israelis and killing Jews. They have not changed that attitude. There is nothing to imply that they have changed that attitude, and there's nothing to imply that they will change that attitude. Hi, folks. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode. It means a great deal to me, and if you want to help our channel to grow, please take a moment and hit the subscribe button so that you get all of our content as and when it's published, together with our unique footage from the field. And remember, I want to know about your questions. I want to hear what's on your mind. So please be sure to leave those in the comment section below, and I'll do my very best to get to those points. And also, do be sure to leave a comment, because doing so really does help us to reach an ever wider audience. So thank you very much. And with that, it's on with the show. In terms of the emotions that are really awash among the people here in Israel, throughout the country, from the left of the political spectrum to the right of the political spectrum, and I think just about everything in between, there's a tremendous sense of relief. There's a tremendous sense of relief that 20 of the hostages who were presumed to be alive have indeed been shown to be alive and have indeed been returned, and to Zion have been returned, and to their country and to their families and to their land, having been stolen from it on October the 7th. And everybody rightly should be and is in the midst of celebrating that turn of events. And that includes, incidentally, the return of Eviatar David, whose image was released by Hamas in one of the more depraved propaganda videos that they circulated, showing him utterly emaciated, very, very underweight, very, very close to death, in fact, digging his own grave. Eviatar David is now home with his family. He's currently in hospital in Israel, but he's home in the land from which he was taken. So there's a lot of positive news, but it's not unbridled joy. And it's important that all of you understand that it's not unbridled joy, and that's for very good reason. 20 of our hostages have been returned alive. Incidentally, there was some concern that 2 of those hostages may not be alive any longer. That proved not to be the case, thankfully. But there are another 28 of our hostages who are deceased, who have died between October the 7th, 2023 and today. And the Israeli people and the supporters of Israel around the world are bracing themselves for the return of these hostages. Now, at the moment, it seems that Hamas is set to return 4 of those deceased hostages. Remember, the deal was supposed to ensure that all 28 were returned in one go. That will not be the case, so that's the first breach of the terms by Hamas. Of course, we have to be ready for the very high likelihood that there will be further breaches, further complications, further breaking of the terms of the deal by this terror organization that still exists and is still very much a player in the Gaza Strip, which, to give everybody some context, is a mere 45 minutes drive away from where I'm broadcasting now on the coast of the State of Israel. In addition to that, we have something of an inversion of the long-held Israeli cycle of celebration. Since our Declaration of Independence in 1948, we have followed the formula of first commemorating those who we have lost in Israel's wars, a day known as Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance. The Day of Remembrance elides directly into Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. So we go from mourning directly into celebration, and we have done every single year since our state has existed. This time, because of the circumstances thrust upon us by Hamas, we will be doing the inverse of that. We have celebrated the redemption of 20 of our hostages who are alive, and we now need to set about bracing ourselves to mourn the 28 hostages that will be returned to us who are deceased. So a day of joy, not unbridled joy, but of course we're all very thankful for the return of our living hostages. In terms of the speeches that we just saw, the historic speeches in the Knesset, first by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, then by Leader of the Opposition Yair Lapid, a speech which, quite frankly, I was happy to skip over, and then by President Donald Trump, I think it's very clear that there stands before us an opportunity to broaden the circle of peace and a keenness on behalf of Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump to move very directly toward that expansion. It's presumed that the leader of Indonesia will be traveling to Israel tomorrow in order to begin the work of adding his nation to the nations already signatories to the Abraham Accords. And there's, of course, a notion that additional countries will join that group as well. Most notably, there is anticipation that Saudi Arabia may do so once this war truly has come to an end. And I think that that is all very, very positive. And it's worth taking a moment to really do that, which I think not a sufficient number of Israelis have done, and really acknowledge the profound leadership, courage, and determination of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We saw at Hostage Square just recently when Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner addressed massive throngs of Israelis as we awaited the return of these hostages, that when Benjamin Netanyahu's name was mentioned by Special Envoy Witkoff, boos rang out throughout the square. Now, of course, the doing of October the 7th was not Prime Minister Netanyahu's, but the responsibility for it having taken place on his watch very much is his. And he will have to conjure with that. He will have to conjure with that when it comes to the next elections here in Israel. But everybody should be very clear-eyed that without his determination to keep pushing forward and applying the massive military pressure on Hamas, on Palestinian Islamic Jihad, by applying that same pressure to Hezbollah, by applying that same pressure to Iran and its nuclear weapons program, he brought about the circumstances that gave an opportunity to diplomacy that was masterfully undertaken by the US administration in conjunction with the Israelis. And Prime Minister Netanyahu deserves credit and congratulations for that which he has done since October the 7th. Again, not unbridled congratulations, not unbridled or untempered credit, but credit nonetheless. As is the case with President Donald Trump, every Israeli is deeply grateful to that which President Trump has done, for his friendship to the people of Israel, for his determination to stay affixed to the target of bringing our hostages home, up to and including him referring to our Israeli hostages as, quote, our hostages. Doing so as an American president is not something to be taken for granted, but he's repeatedly said, we have to bring back our hostages, which shows a remarkable degree of attachment to this crisis. And I think there are a couple of other points that people should be very aware of. The fact that this war has been brought to an end as a result of our hostages being returned to us demonstrates beyond any doubt that all of the distraction that is there inside the Gaza Strip, all of the bloodshed and the blood spilling that has taken place since October 7th is squarely and exclusively the responsibility of Hamas. They could have brought about this end 750 days ago when they first launched this dreadful massacre against the people of Israel. They didn't. They didn't want to. They wanted the suffering of their people. They presumed that the Israeli government would be brought to heel by the opinions of world leaders. That did not happen. And the blame for every single thing that has transpired since October 7th is proven by these events to be exclusively on the shoulders of Hamas. And one other point about all of this, there are many people who say that the reason that Yahya Sinwar launched the attack on October the 7th was that he wanted to derail the process of Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords. And some critics of Israel's strategy have said that by continuing this war, Israel is playing into the hands of Yahya Sinwar's vision, namely to end the broadening of the circle of peace. Nothing could be further from the truth. His vision has been utterly destroyed and scuppered, because the fact is that right now we seem to be on the cusp of adding additional countries, even beyond those who were anticipated to join, to the Abraham Accords. So Sinwar's legacy is destroyed, and also the noose of death that Iran sought to tighten around the neck of Israel has been severed, and I believe and I hope it has been severed once and for all. But there remain threats there inside the Gaza Strip. All of you should be very clear-eyed about that. I do not believe that our conflict with Hamas in Gaza can be presumed to be over. So while I've already outlined the areas and the developments that I celebrate, there are other areas that I do not think are worthy of celebration. One of those is the fact that the deal, the 20-point deal that was put forward as a singular whole deal in its entirety, has already been split into two because of the diktats of Hamas. So the day after in Gaza is far from resolved. I believe that what we're going to see is a refusal, a continued refusal of Hamas to disarm. This is a terrorist, jihadist, genocidal organization that is absolutely hell-bent on killing Israelis and killing Jews. They have not changed that attitude. There is nothing to imply that they have changed that attitude, and there's nothing to imply that they will change that attitude. What they will try to do is to take advantage of the current state of play. So one of the things that they may seek to do is to abrogate themselves of governance of the Gaza Strip, but to rebrand themselves as some sort of security force inside Gaza, especially given the fact that they are not going to disarm, despite the deal calling for them to do that very thing. I think that they're going to continue to recruit from among the Gazan population. There are many Gazans who stand ready to join the ranks of this terror organization because the Gazan people have an unhealthy degree of hatred towards the Jewish people, and that has not gone away. I believe actually that has probably only strengthened in recent months and since the October 7th massacre. I've said it before, I don't want to give up on the idea. In my opinion, the only way that we can bring about long-term quiet for the residents of the State of Israel is to facilitate the voluntary relocation of the Gazans outside the Gaza Strip. And I will tell you that relocating the Gazans outside Gaza, to my mind, makes an awful lot more sense than the idea of redeveloping the Gaza Strip. It does not seem reasonable to me that a terror organization launches an attack against Israel, such as we saw on October the 7th, and the long-term outcome of that is that the broad population is not demilitarized, the broad population is not de-radicalized, the terror organization that launched the attack remains somewhat intact and able to recruit, and that everybody inside the Gaza Strip ends up receiving a brand new apartment complex by way of this mass development of the Strip. That to me seems completely unreasonable, and that to me looms large as a future threat for the people of Israel. So I don't know whether that plan will be pursued. It was articulated by the president in the past. It was also supported by the prime minister. That, in my mind, is the only resolution to this ongoing conflict. So listen, folks, if there's one thing that everybody should zone in on, if there's one aspect of these events that everybody should recognize as proof positive of the distinction and the difference between our society in Israel, a correct normative society, and the society writ large inside the Gaza Strip, which in my opinion is a sick society, it is the attitude of both societies to the return of their people and to their lands. Let me explain it. Who is it that Israel has fought to bring home? It's our innocents, it's our elderly, it's our men, it's our women, our Holocaust survivors, our infants, all of whom were seized from within our midst on October the 7th by Hamas. Indeed, even the soldiers of the IDF that Hamas abducted into Gaza were arrayed inside the borders of Israel. They were not part of an expeditionary force. They were in a purely defensive posture, well within the borders of sovereign Israel. Those are the people that we want back. Those are the people we're in the throes of bringing back. The return of those people is what we are correctly and appropriately celebrating. Who does Hamas want back? Hamas wants the worst terrorists, the most psychopathic individuals, mass murderers. They want them not only to be released from Israeli prisons, but they want them back in Gazan society. And when and if those terrorists, those murderers, those psychopathic criminals are returned to Gaza, not only will Hamas cheer their return, but mark my words, the Gazans en masse will celebrate their return as well. That distinction between who we want and who they want shows all the difference between who we are and who they are. And anybody who ignores that fact simply is not interested in the truth. That's the reality. All of you should pay attention to that. It is absolutely indisputable.